I'm Megan Rose Parker, 28 years old, and I spent my life chasing shadows in my own family, always the afterthought next to my sister, their shining star. Every effort I made to fit in felt like screaming into the void, but I kept trying, hoping for that one moment of acceptance. The day before her wedding in Woodhaven, Kansas, I accidentally misplaced a box of decorations I'd poured my heart into preparing weeks of late nights, just to make her day flawless. It was a tiny slip, but my parents, who'd always favored her and barely tolerated me, exploded. In our living room, their faces twisted with rage, they cornered me. "You've ruined everything again, Megan." My mom snarled, her voice dripping with years of pent-up resentment. My dad nodded, his eyes cold, adding, "The greatest gift for your sister's wedding would be if you just disappeared from our family permanently." Those words slammed into me like a freight train, my heart racing, chest tightening with a mix of fury and betrayal that I'd suppressed for too long. How could the people who raised me wish me gone just to avoid embarrassing their favorite? I didn't beg or fight. I grabbed my keys, walked out the door, slamming behind me like a final punctuation. The next day, I couldn't face it. Instead, I watched the wedding through a friend's shaky live stream, my sister beaming in her gown, my parents toasting happily as if erasing me had lifted a weight. But in that moment, something ignited inside me, not defeat, but a fierce determination. What if disappearing was my escape? What secrets would unravel without me there to hold it all together? So I made it real. I packed my bags, sold my apartment, froze our shared accounts, and vanished from Woodhaven without a trace. If you're wondering how my family reacted or what dark truths surfaced when I was gone, stick around. This is my raw story of breaking free from a toxic bond that nearly destroyed me. Curious where I ended up? Share your city in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to uncover the twists in my journey of self-discovery. Growing up in Woodhaven, Kansas, our family home looked like something out of a postcard, a neat two-story with a wraparound porch, where neighbors waved and assumed everything inside was just as idyllic. But behind closed doors, the truth was far from perfect. My parents, Patricia Lynn Foster and Michael James Foster, owned a local accounting firm respected in town for their reliability and community ties. Patricia handled client relations with her sharp wit and organized events like charity drives, her outfits always pressed makeup flawless. Michael managed the books, steady and supportive, backing her decisions without question, including how they raised us. From my earliest memories, my sister was the star they orbited around. 4 years older, she excelled effortlessly, bringing home perfect grades and sports trophies that Patricia displayed proudly in the living room. "Your sister's a natural leader," Patricia would say over dinner, eyes lighting up as she recounted her latest achievement. Michael would agree, adding, "She's got that drive we always hoped for." I tried to shine too, practicing piano for hours or joining the debate team, but it never landed the same. When I won a school art contest at age 8, Patricia glanced at the certificate and muttered, "Cute hobby, but your sister got first in math Olympics, that's real talent." The constant comparisons chipped away at me, making every effort feel pointless. Playtime highlighted the divide even more. In the backyard, if we fought over a swing or game, Patricia always ruled in my sister's favor, telling me to stop being selfish. Michael rarely stepped in, just patting my shoulder later with, "Let it go, kiddo, family harmony matters." By middle school, I learned to fade back, avoiding spotlights to dodge criticism. But the jabs intensified. Patricia monitored my appearance, relentlessly commenting at breakfast, "Megan, that shirt makes you look sloppy, change before school." I was slim, but her words made me doubt every mirror glance. Michael joined in on career talks, like when I expressed interest in marketing. "Why not accounting like us? Your sister's already interning at a firm." High school amplified everything. My sister sailed through with honors, her college acceptance to a top business program celebrated with a family party. Patricia and Michael drove her to campus, posting photos online with captions like, "Proud parents of a future CEO." I stayed behind enrolling in the local community college to cut costs and to help at the firm after classes. But help meant running errands for Patricia, filing papers for Michael, or covering reception when they needed breaks. I dated sporadically, but guys lost interest when my schedule revolved around family calls. One relationship ended after Patricia grilled him at dinner. "He's nice, but not driven like your sister's boyfriend." Post-graduation, I landed a marketing job at a small agency nearby, the commute short enough to drop by home daily. Pay was decent, and I rented an apartment 3 blocks away, craving some space while staying available. But availability turned into obligation. Patricia's dizzy spells started around, then doctors said stress-related, but she demanded I drive her to appointments, claiming I can't manage alone. Michael reinforced it, calling during my lunch. "Your mom's relying on you, Megan, family first." My sister, now thriving in the city as a corporate executive, visited twice a year at most, staying in hotels and transforming visits into praise sessions. Patricia would beam, asking about her promotions or vacations, while I served meals and cleared plates, invisible again. I sacrificed bigger dreams like relocating for a high-profile agency job, convincing myself loyalty would pay off. But resentment built. Last winter, when Patricia's arthritis worsened, I turned my guest room into her recovery space, working from my kitchen table amid her constant requests. Michael stopped by daily, thanking me vaguely, but it felt like duty, not appreciation. My sister sent a care package, but her calls focused on her own life, rarely asking about mine. Despite the imbalance, I held on planning my sister's wedding with everything I had: vendors, timelines, decorations, hoping it would bridge the gap. That misplaced box wasn't the real issue. It was the excuse they'd waited for. Their explosion unleashed years of favoritism, confirming I was the outsider. Watching the live streams, seeing them toast joyfully without me, the hurt morphed into clarity. How much longer would I endure this? Vanishing wasn't revenge, it was reclaiming what they'd never given my own worth. My sister's wedding was supposed to be the moment everything changed. Jessica Lynn Carter. My older sister was getting married to David Paul Carter, a finance guy she'd met in the city. And I threw myself into making it perfect, believing foolishly that it might finally earn me a real place in my family. For months, I poured every spare minute and dollar into planning, hoping Patricia and Michael would see me as more than the daughter who always fell short. I told myself this could be my chance to belong, to hear them say just once, "Good job, Megan." But deep down, a nagging voice warned me it was a long shot. I started early, coordinating every detail like it was my own lifeline. I called vendors late at night, negotiating with the caterer to secure Jessica's favorite dishes: roasted chicken and herbed potatoes, no garlic, because Patricia had a sensitivity. I spent hours choosing flowers, settling on peonies, because Jessica once mentioned loving them in a magazine. The guest list was a nightmare. Patricia insisted on inviting half of Woodhaven's community leaders, so I tracked down addresses for over 100 people, double-checking RSVPs to avoid any embarrassment. I even designed custom place cards myself, staying up past midnight to get the font just right. Every choice was deliberate, every step a silent plea for approval. But Patricia and Michael barely noticed. When I showed Patricia the catering menu, she scanned it for 2 seconds before saying Jessica would have picked something more elegant. Michael, flipping through his accounting ledgers, added, "Don't mess this up, Megan. Your sister deserves perfection." Their words cut, but I swallowed the hurt, telling myself it was just their way. I kept going, booking the venue, a charming barn just outside town, and confirming the photographer, a friend of Patricia's from the church named Susan Marie Collins, who gushed about how radiant Jessica would look. Susan barely acknowledged me, focusing her chatter on my sister's beauty and charm. Jessica was barely involved, too busy with her executive job in the city. She'd text me vague approvals, "Looks fine," or "whatever you think," leaving me to handle the chaos alone. When she did visit Patricia and Michael transformed, showering her with questions about her dress fittings or David's latest promotion. I'd sit at the dinner table passing dishes while they laughed about memories I wasn't part of. Once I tried sharing an idea about the seating chart, but Patricia cut me off. Megan, focus on getting it done, not talking about it. Michael nodded his eyes on Jessica, who didn't even glance my way. The closer the wedding got, the more their criticism sharpened. Patricia called me one morning, her voice icy. "Megan, your emails to the florist sounded unprofessional." I had to rewrite them. I'd spent hours crafting those messages, but I just apologized, my stomach twisting. Michael wasn't much better. When I showed him the finalized timeline, he sighed. "Your sister would have had this sorted weeks ago." I wanted to scream that I'd been juggling their demands alongside my own job, but I bit my tongue, clinging to the hope that the wedding day would change their perspective. I spent $2,000 of my savings money I'd set aside for a marketing conference on a vintage necklace for Jessica, a delicate silver piece with a sapphire pendant I knew she'd love. I imagined her face lighting up, maybe even thanking me in front of everyone. I also bought a new dress for myself, a simple navy one that Patricia wouldn't call tacky. I practiced my smile in the mirror, determined to look the part of the supportive sister, even if I felt like an outsider. I called Jessica a week before, practically begging her to confirm her arrival time. "It'll mean so much to Mom and Dad," I said, not admitting how much it meant to me too. To my surprise, she agreed to drive down with David, promising to be there early. As the wedding approached, my anxiety spiked. I double-checked every detail: the cake order, the music playlist, the lighting setup, knowing Patricia and Michael would pounce on any mistake. I texted Susan, the photographer, to confirm her schedule, and she replied, "Don't worry, I'll make Jessica shine." The focus was always on her, never on the work I was pouring in. Patricia called daily with new demands. "Megan, make sure the napkins match the tablecloths, or don't let the guests park too close to the barn." Michael added his own, "Check the sound system yourself. Your sister's vows need to be heard clearly." The night before the final vendor meeting, I was exhausted, running on coffee and fading hope. I presented Patricia and Michael with the full wedding binder, every contract, receipt, and timeline organized to perfection. Patricia flipped through it, her lips pursed. "This is fine, but it's not up to your sister's standards," she said, handing it back. Michael didn't even look, just muttered, "Let's hope you don't drop the ball." Their dismissal hit harder than usual, a reminder that no matter how much I gave, it wouldn't be enough. I went to bed that night replaying their words, my chest heavy with a mix of anger and desperation. Why was I still trying to prove myself to people who'd already written me off? The wedding was supposed to be my moment to shine alongside Jessica, to show I could be part of their perfect picture. But every ignored email, every sharp comment built a wall between me and that fantasy. I didn't know it then, but that misplaced box the next day would be the final straw, the excuse they'd use to push me out for good. It wasn't about the decorations. It was about years of seeing me as the problem, the one who didn't fit their vision of family. The day before Jessica's wedding was chaos, but I thought I had everything under control. I'd been up since dawn, finalizing details, double-checking the caterer's delivery and the DJ's playlist. My apartment was a mess of checklists and vendor contracts. But I was determined to make it flawless for her, for them. Patricia and Michael had been hovering all week, their expectations crushing me more than usual. I drove to their house that afternoon to drop off the last batch of decorations, my stomach knotted with hope that they'd finally see my effort. Instead, I walked into a storm that changed everything. I'd been carrying a box of table centerpieces, delicate glass orbs I'd spent weeks sourcing, when I realized one was missing. I'd left it at my place, an honest mistake after sleepless nights. Before I could explain, Patricia noticed, her eyes narrowing. "Megan, where's the rest of the decorations?" She snapped, her voice cutting through the living room. Michael, sitting on the couch with a coffee, looked up, his face already hardening. I started to apologize. "I forgot one box, I'll grab it now." but Patricia cut me off, her hand slamming onto the kitchen counter. You forgot. You're always screwing things up? This is Jessica's wedding, not some school project you can half-ass. Her words hit like a slap, echoing years of criticism I'd tried to ignore. Michael stood, his voice low but venomous. We've been patient, Megan, but this is too much. You're embarrassing us again. I tried to defend myself, explaining I'd been juggling everything alone, but Patricia wasn't having it. You're careless, always have been, she hissed. Your sister would have had this done perfectly months ago. Jessica was there, standing near the stairs with David, her fiancé, both dressed casually as they prepped for the rehearsal dinner. I looked at her, pleading for a word of support, but she just stared at the floor, silent as ever. David shifted uncomfortably, saying nothing, his eyes fixed on his phone. The air grew heavier as Patricia's voice rose. You know what, Megan? We've put up with your mistakes long enough. The greatest gift you could give for your sister's wedding would be if you just disappeared from our family permanently. Michael nodded, his jaw tight. It's time, Megan. You don't belong here. The words tore through me, each one a confirmation of what I'd always feared: I was never wanted. Susan, Patricia's friend from the church, was there arranging flowers for the rehearsal. She froze, her eyes darting between us, but offered no defense, just a pitying glance that stung worse than their anger. My chest burned with a mix of hurt and rage, my hands shaking as I clutched the box. I wanted to scream, to throw every insult they'd hurled at me back in their faces, but something deeper took over, a cold, sharp clarity. They'd meant every word. This wasn't about a missing box. It was about years of seeing me as the problem, the one who didn't fit. Fine, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. You'll get your gift. I set the box down, turned, and walked out the door, slamming behind me with a finality that echoed in my bones. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop, the weight of their words sinking in. Why had I spent years trying to please people who wished me gone? The next day, I couldn't face the wedding. A friend from work live-streamed it, and I watched on my phone, Jessica glowing in her dress, Patricia and Michael toasting with smiles, as if my absence was the missing piece to their perfect day. The sight fueled my resolve. If they wanted me gone, I'd make it real. I started planning that night, my mind racing but clear. I called my boss, taking a personal day, something I never did. Then, I contacted a real estate agent, someone known for quick cash sales. My apartment? My sanctuary for the past 3 years was worth more than what they offered, but speed mattered more than profit. I reached out to a lawyer I'd met at a networking event, Karen Mitchell, to understand my options. Sitting in her office the next morning, I laid it all out: the years of being sidelined, the public rejection, the missing box that became their excuse. My voice stayed calm, but inside, I was unraveling. I want to disappear, I told her. Not just leave, but start over completely. What do I need to know? Karen leaned back, her expression serious. Megan, this is a big step. You sure you don't want to take some time? I shook my head. I've given them my whole life. I'm done waiting for them to change. She nodded, outlining the legal side. You're an adult, you can relocate without telling anyone. But those shared accounts with your parents are tricky. They're joint, so you could face issues if you withdraw everything. I explained the accounts were set up for family expenses, mostly my contributions for Patricia's medical bills and household costs. Karen suggested freezing them and setting up a trust to protect the funds for their intended use. By the next day, I was in motion. I met with another lawyer, Stephen Reynolds, who specialized in financial matters. He reviewed the accounts, nodding as I detailed how I'd been the primary contributor. Freezing them is smart, he said. It prevents misuse while keeping the funds available for their needs. I opened new bank accounts under my name, using a P.O. box in a nearby town for privacy. I called my boss again, this time to resign, citing personal reasons. 9 years at the agency ended with a 10-minute conversation and a promise to email my formal letter. The hardest part was deciding what to take. My apartment held the usual stuff: furniture, clothes, books, but little felt like it belonged to the person I wanted to be. I sorted everything into piles: sell, donate, take. The take pile was small: my laptop, a few outfits, a journal I'd kept since college, and a necklace my high school art teacher gave me. Everything else could go. Jessica texted once asking if I was okay, but I didn't reply. Patricia and Michael didn't reach out, their silence louder than any apology. As I packed, the live stream replayed in my mind: Patricia's smile, Michael's toast, Jessica's silence. It wasn't just rejection, it was erasure. But with every box I taped shut, I felt lighter, like I was shedding their expectations. I was done being the daughter they didn't want. By the end of that week, I'd sold my place, frozen the accounts, and planned my exit. Woodhaven, Kansas was about to become a memory, and I was ready to vanish into a life where I could finally be enough. The door slamming behind me that day wasn't just an exit from my parents' house, it was the end of a life I'd outgrown. I drove back to my apartment in Woodhaven, Kansas, my hands gripping the wheel. Their words disappear from our family ringing in my ears. I wasn't running away. I was breaking free. Over the next few days, I moved with a clarity I'd never felt before, each step severing the ties that had held me back for years. First, I finalized the sale of my apartment. The real estate agent offered $20,000 below market value, but I didn't care. Speed was everything. I signed the papers within a week, the keys handed over in a blur of paperwork. Next, I met with Stephen Reynolds, the financial lawyer, to handle the shared accounts with Patricia and Michael. Those accounts, meant for family expenses like Patricia's medical bills, held mostly my contributions from years of dipping into my savings. Stephen reviewed the numbers, his pen tapping the desk. "Freezing them is the safest move," he said. "It protects the funds for their intended use, medical and household costs, without giving them free rein." By the end of the day, the accounts were locked, a trust set up with a third-party administrator to approve legitimate expenses only. Karen Mitchell, my other lawyer, gave me a nod when I told her my plan. "You're not just leaving Megan, you're reclaiming your life," she said, her voice steady but kind. I called my boss the next morning, my voice calm, as I resigned from the marketing agency. "Personal reasons," I said, ending 9 years with a brief email confirming my decision. The hardest part was packing. I stood in my apartment surrounded by furniture and clothes that felt like relics of someone else's life. I kept only what mattered: my laptop, a few outfits, my college journal, and that sapphire necklace from my art teacher. The rest, books, dishes, even the couch I'd saved for, went to donation or sale. Each item I let go of felt like shedding a layer of their expectations. I chose Tidewater, South Carolina, almost on instinct, a small coastal town far enough from Woodhaven to feel like another world. I didn't have a plan beyond getting there, but South felt right, like I was chasing sunlight after years in the shadows. I loaded my car with 2 suitcases and hit the road, Interstate 95 stretching out like a promise. The drive took 3 days, a blur of gas stations, cheap motels, and playlists to drown out the noise in my head. I paid cash for everything, keeping my old phone on, but silence tucked in the glove box for emergencies. Patricia texted once, a curt, "Where are you?" I didn't reply. Jessica sent a vague, "Are you okay?" message, but Michael's silence spoke loudest. Their lack of effort confirmed I'd made the right call. Tidewater was quieter than I expected, a sleepy town with salt air and a main street lined with shops. I found a rental listing for a weathered cottage overlooking the marsh, month to month, furnished, available immediately. It wasn't perfect: creaky floors, a leaky faucet, windows that stuck in the humidity. But it was mine, a space where no one demanded anything of me. I signed the lease as Elaine Parker, using my middle name to mark a fresh start. It wasn't a disguise, just a way to distance myself from the Megan they'd rejected. I set up a freelance marketing website under Elaine Parker, securing small gigs through online platforms, logos, social media campaigns. Nothing big, but enough to cover rent and groceries. The work felt liberating, each project a reminder I could build something on my own terms. I started exploring Tidewater, finding comfort in its rhythm. One morning, I stopped at a cafe called Saltwater Brew, where I met Maria Lynn Thompson, the owner. Maria, in her late 40s with curly hair and a warm smile, handed me my coffee and said, "New face, huh? Tidewater's good for new beginnings." Her casual kindness caught me off guard, but I just nodded, not ready to share. A week after settling in, the drama from Woodhaven followed me. My old phone buzzed with a notification from a local Facebook group. Patricia had posted publicly claiming I'd ruined Jessica's wedding by disappearing with family funds. The lies stung, calling me a thief when I'd only frozen the accounts to protect them. Michael backed her up in the comments, writing, "We trusted Megan, and she betrayed us." Jessica stayed silent, but a friend forwarded me her private message. "You didn't have to abandon us like this." The accusations twisted the knife, but I didn't respond. I'd spent years defending myself to them, and I was done. I called Stephen to check the trust. He confirmed the accounts were secure, with funds dispersed for Patricia's medications and utilities, but their attempts to withdraw large sums like $5,000 for wedding repairs had been denied without documentation. Their narrative was crumbling, but they doubled down, painting me as the villain to save face. Maria noticed my tension one morning at the cafe, sliding my coffee over with a raised eyebrow. "Family trouble?" she asked, not prying too deep. I gave a half smile, saying, "Something like that just needed a fresh start." She nodded, her eyes understanding. "This town's full of folks who've done the same. You'll find your footing." Each day in Tidewater chipped away at the weight I'd carried. I ran along the marsh trails, my sneakers pounding out the anger and guilt. I took on more freelance clients, my inbox filling with projects that valued my skills, not my family role. I ignored Patricia's second text, a half-hearted, "We need to talk," and deleted Jessica's follow-up, "Mom's upset, please call." Michael sent nothing, his silence a final confirmation of where I stood. Setting those boundaries wasn't easy. Guilt crept in, whispering I'd abandoned them, but I reminded myself they'd pushed me out first. One evening, sitting on my cottage porch, the marsh stretching out before me, I felt something new. Peace. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of possibility. I wasn't the daughter who failed their standards anymore. I was Elaine, building a life where I decided my worth. The accusations from Woodhaven still stung, but they couldn't pull me back. I'd vanished not to hurt them, but to save myself, and I was just getting started. 3 weeks into my new life in Tidewater, South Carolina, the past clawed its way back. My old phone, buried in a drawer, buzzed with a voicemail from Patricia. "Megan, where are you? This isn't how family behaves." Her voice dripped with accusation, as if I'd committed a crime by leaving. Michael followed with a text, "Your mother's in the hospital. You need to come home." My heart lurched, not from worry, but from the familiar pull of guilt they'd weaponized my whole life. I didn't call back. Instead, I contacted Stephen Reynolds, my lawyer, to check the trust. He confirmed the accounts were intact, covering Patricia's utilities and prescriptions, but she'd tried pulling $10,000 for emergency medical costs without documentation. The request was denied, and I knew this hospital stay was another play. A day later, an email popped up from Dr. Linda Marie Evans, Patricia's doctor in Woodhaven. "Megan, I can't share details due to privacy, but your mother's condition is stable, not life-threatening. It's more emotional than physical." She wrote, her tone careful but clear. "A panic episode, not a heart attack." Patricia was fine, just spinning a crisis to reel me back. I sat on my cottage porch staring at my phone, the weight of their manipulation settling in. They weren't worried about me. They wanted control, and I wasn't giving it back. Jessica's email came next. Her subject line, a hesitant, "I'm sorry." She wrote, "Megan, I didn't realize how bad things were for you. Mom and Dad were out of line, but they're struggling now. Please call. We can fix this." Her words sounded sincere, but they lacked weight. She'd stood silent while they erased me, never once stepping in during years of their favoritism. I read it twice, searching for something to hold on to, but found nothing real enough to change my mind. I didn't reply. The sister I'd hoped for didn't exist, and chasing her approval was just another trap. Social media lit up with more accusations. A Woodhaven community page post shared by Patricia claimed, "I'd abandoned my family in their time of need and taken their savings." Michael commented, "We gave her everything, and this is how she repays us." The lies were bold, painting me as a heartless thief when the trust record showed every penny was accounted for. A local news site ran a short piece quoting Patricia. "My daughter left us destitute after ruining her sister's wedding. The irony burned, they'd wished me gone and now they played victims." I forwarded the post to Stephen, who drafted a statement clarifying the trust's purpose and my contributions. "Let them dig their own hole," he said. "The truth's on your side." I walked to Saltwater Brew, needing Maria's steady presence to ground me. "Family drama again?" she asked, sliding my coffee across the counter. I nodded, admitting, "They're saying I stole from them, trying to guilt me back." Maria leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "I left a controlling family 2 years ago. They pulled the same stunt, sob stories, public shaming. Best thing I did was stay gone. Ask yourself, if you go back, what changes?" Her words hit hard, echoing my own thoughts. Nothing would change. Patricia and Michael would still see me as the problem, Jessica would stay silent, and I'd lose the freedom I'd just found. I checked the trust portal that night. Patricia's requests for cash, $3,000 for home repairs, $5,000 for medical emergencies, were all denied for lack of proof. The trust had paid her bills from electricity to prescriptions, proving she wasn't destitute. Their accusations were a desperate grab for sympathy, and I wasn't falling for it. I sent a single email to Dr. Evans. "Thank you for the update. The trust covers all legitimate expenses. Please focus on my mother's emotional health, that's the real issue." I kept it short, factual, cutting the emotional strings they'd pulled for years. Days turned into weeks, and Tidewater became more than a refuge, it was home. My freelance work as Elaine Parker grew, with clients praising my designs, no longer overshadowed by family demands. Maria invited me to a local book club where I met people who didn't know the old Megan, the one who'd shrunk to fit her family's mold. I started painting again, something I'd abandoned after Patricia called it a waste of time. Each brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The guilt still crept in, sometimes whispering that I'd abandoned them. But I'd learned to push back. They'd pushed me out first, and staying gone was my survival. Patricia sent one more text, "Megan, we're family. Come home." I deleted it. Michael's silence continued, and Jessica's final message a week, "I miss you," went unanswered. I wasn't cruel. I was done. Looking back, I've learned something vital. Loving yourself sometimes means walking away from those who hurt you, even if they're family. Putting your worth first isn't selfish, it's the only way to live authentically. If you're trapped in a toxic relationship, don't let guilt or duty chain you to it. Your life deserves to be lived on your terms, not someone else's expectations. I disappeared not to punish them, but to save myself, and I'd do it again. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever had to walk away to find yourself, share your experience in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's spread the truth. Sometimes the bravest choice is to choose yourself.